Didn't see you there.
In that last video, initially the plane was slowly yawing to the right a little bit all the time, and I tried to trim that out by trimming left roll and left rudder, but in the video, as you saw, some of you observant viewers pointed out that it was like this. The control surface on the right wing was up, which kind of might have looked like I was trimming right roll, okay, because this would make the right wing go down. But of course, I'm not that silly, and I'm thinking what's going on here now is that none of these control surfaces are glued in, and on all of the other ones, it doesn't seem to be an issue at all. But this one, quite often, just by moving the servo, sometimes will wiggle a little bit loose. And I'm just going to exaggerate this a lot so that you can actually see what I mean. But I can just pull. Typically, it doesn't go that bad. It goes sort of something like about that. And I've been a bit lazy, and I just go, whoop, there we go, push it back in and keep flying. But I think what I'll do now is I'll glue these all in properly, and all the other ones as well. Do you hear that rattling, vibrating kind of noise? It's all coming from this side. I think it's just the bearings in that motor are not very... Hopefully you can hear that, but we do that over here. There's no such noise in any direction. This one's all rattly. So I think I will change that bearing. Oh, look at this, hey! So even though I don't have any bearings to replace this with at the moment, I thought I'd take it off and just see if it was obviously a bad bearing, and took the motor bell off it, and sure enough the front bearing was not very good, but since I don't have any replacements I just put it back together for now. But there's like a collet, like a ring with a grub screw in on the back that holds it on, and I cinched that up fairly tight, and doesn't make that noise anymore. As far as I can tell, it's perfectly fine. I thought I'd see if I could set these ESCs to turn off at a lower voltage that would be more suitable for lithium ion, and I've managed to do that. So we're running at 11.5 volts here, just powered off one of those, so it's able to sit there like this for quite a while without the voltage changing, which is quite handy. Anyway, so that should let us go down to 12 volts quite easily, which should get the most out of the lithium ion cells. It'll actually go down to 11 before it turns off, but there's a sort of a strange no man's land between 11 and 11.5 where it will let the motors spin for just a moment, but then no more. So basically 11.5 is where any lower than 11.5 and you're in big trouble. Okay, let's have a look at the cells that I'm going to use here. Actually, first let's just have a look at what I have been using so far. That's this Multistar 4S 10 amp hour 12C discharge pack. Historically, these packs, I used these in my first e-bike build. They worked great for a while, but then like the last cell seems to drop off in voltage a lot, and it's like the first three are okay and the last one doesn't work very well. Somehow this one's been managing quite well though. I haven't had any problems with this, and it might be due to this slightly newer one that I have here, which is 12C. The original ones that didn't work very well after a while were all 10C, so maybe it was just a little bit low C rating. Anyway, okay, so this weighs 890 grams, and my first thought was to keep using that in the nose and then put some of these in the payload bay and put them in parallel. I don't think it would be a problem to run lithium ion and lithium polymer in parallel, but then I realized that I would still want to stop at 3.5 volts per cell so as not to damage that one. So it wouldn't really let me use the full potential of the lithium ions, which can go down much lower. So 3.125 or 3.2 roughly, I think looks like it's going to have to be the limit from what we saw just before with the ESC's testing. And I've got a bunch of these here, I think about 100 of them almost. And these are supposed to be quite high current rated, 25 amps or 35 amps even, I think, if you can keep the temperature to within a certain level. And these came from a Dyson vacuum cleaner, I think. I think that's what the guy said. And I got these on Trade Me, and you can see he has tested them all. It's supposed to be 2800 milliamp hours, I think, capacity. And they have been used a little bit, but if his measurements and markings here are quite accurate, which I hope they are, they should still have quite a bit of life left in them. So yeah, I think I'm going to use 48 of these in total. I'm going to make a 4S 4P pack to replace this. That'll be about 830 grams or so, so it'll be very similar to that weight. And then for the main payload bay, I want about 1.6 kilos, and that's going to be another 32 of these cells. Alright, so I've settled on these cells to be the ones that I'm going to use. So I've got 4S 8P and 4S 4P. It's a bit of a hassle to make up two separate packs like this and then join them, but this pack here is going to be quite useful because it's almost a direct replacement for that one. So I'll be able to use that in my OG Talon and maybe even on the big Hex to see how that goes. That would be interesting. This one here, not really sure if I want to keep this after doing this test. I might just pull it apart, but until I can think of something else to do with these cells, I probably won't. And it also occurred to me that maybe if I sell this twin hopper someday, this pack might be quite a useful asset to go with it, because it would be quite suitable to use with it, I think. To make these packs, I'm going to use these very convenient plastic shaping brackets, or whatever these are called. Got some hexagonal ones there, and that's for the nose battery. And then these ones in the payload, my original plan when I was designing the plane was that the pack could be made like this, because that's a nice fit for the width of the payload bay. It's actually like 1 centimeter on each side, still free. And it wouldn't really ruin the main volume of the payload bay if you actually wanted to, carry some cargo in there. That was the idea. But I don't think I'm going to do that, because it's a very specific layout for a specific purpose, and after I do this test I'm probably not going to use this battery that much in the plane. So I thought I'd use these square ones and make it like that, and that way this width here will just fit inside the OG Talon, and I'll be able to try a 4S 8P pack in that one and see how long that can fly for, because I'm kind of wondering if the OG Talon could carry this as well. I'm pretty sure it could carry that. Both of them together might be a bit of a stretch. Since I've never used these cells before, I thought it might be a good idea to first try it in something that's a little less high stakes. So I'm going to take a flight with the OG Talon, that's with a small pack of course, and I'm just curious to see how much they'll sag under load. Okay, well that went pretty well. I was able to fly for 70 minutes, 70 that is, and we still have 14.15, and the divergence between the cells is pretty small, only 15 millivolts. I actually saw 14.0 under load on my OSD. That was flying at about 4.5 amps for the whole of the 70 minutes, except for the launch of course. So these cells I think have passed that test pretty well, and I'm just going to assume that the larger pack is also is going to perform just like that. This endurance flight test is going to be quite long, and I noticed when I was doing this previously that the Runcam HD that I was using for FPV, when the SD card gets full, it turns itself off, or the screen goes black anyway, and all you can see is the OSD, which is not that useful. So I'm going to put a regular FPV camera up there, and I'm going to put this Runcam thumb on the tail, and this is kind of useful because you can turn it on and it will automatically start recording. You can set it up to do that, which is what I've done. So I can turn that off and on during the flight and just record the interesting parts like the launch and the landing, and the SD card will not get completely full. So to do that, what I've done is I've set up this relay which is coming off this servo beck. This was 6 volts before, but you can change it with that little solder pad to get 5 volts or 7 volts. So I put it back to 5 volts for the Runcam thumb. Hopefully that's not going to cause any problems for the servos. And at the moment it's just going out to a voltmeter over there, and if I flip the switch on my radar you'll see we get 5 volts. That will start the camera recording, or turn it on and start it recording, and then we can just turn it off. Alrighty, the wood pellets payload has been swapped out for the lithium payload, and we should be ready to go. Well, here we are with another beautiful day. We don't have them as often as I would like, but when we get them, they're really, really nice here. I have an extra piece of equipment for today's flight, a chair, because this could take a while. So I'm expecting that we'll get, just looking at the chart that I made earlier, maybe 80 minutes. I'd be happy with 80 minutes. But I think maybe we could squeeze a little bit more out of it, so I'm optimistically hoping for 90 minutes, and I've got my little run cam on the tail there for you to have a look at, although I don't think I'll be showing you much of this flight because it's going to be really boring. Manual mode, flaps half down, camera on, let's go. Flaps up. Man, it's quiet. Let's see if we've got that vibrating sound now. Do a bit half throttle. Yeah! It's fixed! So just tightening up that bearing ring or collet or whatever the thing's called, I think just tightening that up a little bit seems to have figured out the vibrating noise problem. I didn't need to buy any new bearings at all, that's good. But anyway, yeah, so I'll turn this main camera off here and... or shall I do some flybys first? How about that? Okay, back up to half throttle, but I'm pushing the nose down all the way here. I wonder if the CG's not really the greatest. Yeah, lovely. Ah, that motor sounds way better. Okay, I've just gone over 40 minutes and 14.9 volts. So I'd say my satisfaction target of 80 minutes should be no problem. Found a nice thermal, and yeah, this plane thermal's alright actually. I've got the flaps down there as you can see, or half down. Alright, we were just gone 90 minutes and we're at 13.5 volts, so I'm having to bump the throttle up to 60% here at the moment just to maintain altitude, although I am helped quite often by some thermals. There's a really big one down the bottom of the airstrip here. I'll see if I can catch it on camera. I think it might be because of all that dirt. See, just below us there, right in front, there's where the diggers were working the other day. They're not there at the moment, but if I put my flaps on half here, oh, we're losing height. I think it's one of those things that as soon as you turn the camera on and try and do it, it's not going to happen. I did it a couple of times before, that's why. Here we go, here we go, here we go. See, 2 meters, 3 meters. Climbing at 2 meters, 3 meters per second here. Maybe it's just the airstrip itself, the concrete. But this is a fairly reliable spot I found down at the bottom. 2 meters, 2, 3. Anyway, we're a little bit high now, so I'll leave it there, but yeah, flaps off. Yeah, so 60% throttle, it still seems to be maintaining altitude at 13.4 volts. So I have to keep an eye on it because I've noticed that it's steadily needing to be bumped up and up and up as the voltage drops. No surprises there. Okay, well, we're just about to click over 100 minutes. And the voltage is at 12.5. Throttle is having to be at 70% now. So as far as just flying around goes, that's not really an issue. But I'm starting to get a little bit uncomfortable that if I have to do a go around, I don't have, like, I'm using 70% throttle just to stay level, right? If I suddenly need a whole lot more to pull out, up and out away from the hill, not really going to have it. So I might just call it a day there. So yeah, hopefully if you're looking at the OSD there, you can see 100 minutes, 30 seconds just gone there. 12.4 volts we're starting to see. and altitude is sort of just maintaining at that point. So I think that's going to be the end of today's test. Okay, that's half flaps, half throttle. I'm just sort of letting it come down gradually rather than diving it down quickly like I did last time. And I'm going to try landing in fly-by-wire A. There were some suggestions in the comments of the last video to do that. I think it's light enough that that's not going to be an issue. Come down, please. I'm just reducing the throttle and hoping that it's going to come down. No, it's not going to, is it? Alright, I'll just push the nose down myself on purpose then. Like that. And once again, we're a little bit far away. I can't quite see it properly. It's going down, down, down. I'm pushing the nose way down to do this. Actually, this looks alright now. Alright, let go of the stick. It's going to bounce up. That's fine. Throttle back. Throttle right back. Glide. Full glide. Lift over that stick, please. Throttle back. Throttle right back. Glide. Full glide. Lift over that stick, please. Did you see that? We bounced over the stick. Just. Well, I think everything's alright. That was actually one of the better landings, wasn't it? So as we can see from this little clip here, the final flight time was almost 105 minutes, so let's call it 104, and the voltage was about 12.4-ish. So it could have gone a little bit more if you had confidence that you weren't going to need to do a go-around, but I think it's pretty reasonable to just call it there as the time that you could confidently fly it for. Anyway, I mentioned some charts earlier, and this is what I was using to make a prediction as to how long this might fly. So just looking at the payload weights that we carried in the previous 4 flights, or some of the previous 4 flights anyway, and then the times that it flew for, and then the approximate watt hours of the battery that I was using to do that with, we can come up with a minutes per watt hour estimate at each weight, and then look at how much additional watt hours we could add with lithium ion if the payload was lithium ion batteries instead of just wood pellets. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff here, but anyway, just to get to these graphs here. So this is the flight time with each payload weight, so 35 minutes carrying nothing, and then about 15-16 minutes carrying 5 kilos. Surprisingly straight line here, actually. I thought this would have a bit more of a curve to it, but it almost looks like it might be straight, at least for the section that we're looking at there. And then this is the projected or estimated flight time if the payload was all lithium ion. Jumps up quite quickly, up to about 2 kilos. Unfortunately, I didn't do any tests in this range here, so I'm not sure what this would have looked like. But then after that, it kind of goes flat, really. And you're putting in a lot more money, a lot more cells to build a pack that's like 5 kilos. Didn't really want to do that anyway. Flying it around at 5 kilos payload was a little bit stressful, I found. It's much more comfortable when the plane's not so heavy. And then I made this other chart here, which was supposed to show how much you're getting out of each little bit more weight that you add. And it's diminishing returns, obviously. We can kind of see that from this second chart here. But anyway, I thought I'd make this one. This value here is probably shouldn't be on the chart because that's actually a divide by 0. So in reality, this little point here should be, I think, asymptotically approaches infinity as you get to 0 kilograms there. But anyway, just looking at all this stuff here, I figured that about 1.6 kilos would be a reasonable return on investment, so to speak, for the amount of cells that you're putting in. So that's how I come up with my 1.6 kilos decision. And then I looked at the values that I got from a test where I flew the OG Talon last year, or maybe 2 years ago now, actually. I don't have the spreadsheet, so I've misplaced that, but I'm just looking at the video of when I uploaded that video. So that flew for 102 minutes. This is just on the lithium polymer pack that I was originally flying the twin hopper with. So we got 102 minutes out of that, traveled 87 kilometers using 9 amp hours. So that gives us 9.67 kilometers per amp hour. Higher is better for this one. And then 103 milliamp hours per kilometer lower is better for this one. And if we compare these two numbers here with the flight that I just did today with the twin hopper, at first the twin hopper looks much worse because the kilometers per amp hour is only 3.96, so it's not even half of the 9.67 that the OG Talon could do. And then the milliamp hours per kilometer is more than twice, like 2.5 times the energy required to travel 1 kilometer, so 253 versus 100 there. But if you consider that the twin hopper weighs a lot more, so the weight of the OG Talon was 2.3 kilos there, and today's twin hopper was 8.65. So if we look at these weights here and compare them that way, then, whoops, that's not supposed to be there. Then, so if we put in kilograms and we have this value that I've made up called kilogram minutes per amp hour, then the twin hopper comes out a little bit ahead. This is twin hopper here, and this is OG Talon there. So if you consider that the overall weight of the plane, or the mass that's being held up in the air, then the twin hopper is slightly more efficient at carrying that weight, but not by much though. 33 versus 26. So overall, what this says to me is that the OG Talon still very impressive little machine. Anyway, that's the end of all the nerdy stuff for this video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.